Alright, welcome back to Captain Chaos's laboratory. We have another Mr. Christmas carousel to work on. And here it is. Look at this fancy thing. The box is a plain white box with a heavy cardboard insert that holds this in place. So without that, I'm assuming the only way I'm going to tell you what it is this, but no, it doesn't have the flags. I didn't see them in the box either. So this is the 75th Anniversary Limited Edition Carousel from Mr. Christmas. So it's supposed to have those flags. All these little holes have studs. I wonder if the flags spin. It's weird. Anyway, it's here because, of course, it doesn't work. Golden Anniversary Carousel. Not a toy. No motion. Power's interrupted. Of course, that's not ever the problem. Flags attached to the tops of the animal poles through the holes in the roof. Oh, so the flags probably go up and down. That'd be really cool. Not in the box. At least not that I saw. So, this one apparently has a problem since it's here. And let's turn her on. This one is 6 volts DC. So, since it's almost Christmas time. That's nice and loud. I think it has a motor issue since of the delay and that loud hum. And, yeah, there's no tension. So I'm going to turn it back off. Oh, you can make the light splash. Interesting. Oh, that's beats to the music? Yep. It's got settings for the lights. That's actually really cool. Alright. Let's turn it off. And unplug it. Let's look at the bottom real quick. Because this thing has this, most of the carousels are just this inner ring right here with the 3 feet. Oh, yeah, goal, yeah, Mr. Christmas 75th Anniversary Limited Edition. This is number 0764 of 3170. There you go. So, and this was made in October of 02. Wow. So this thing is 95 years now for Mr. Christmas. Anyhow, this outer ring has 6 screws. I don't know if we're going to have to unscrew them, but we're going to start like the standard Mr. Christmas. We're going to start on the top and work our way in. So we're going to pop this. And it already appears to be loose. Probably the glue's dried up. There we go. Boop. That out of the way. Should be a fill-up screw. Yep. There's one thing that's nice about Mr. Christmas is they're pretty uniform on disassembly. So if you do work on them, and you have several, they're relatively the same process to remove the top parts. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 clips underneath to hold this canopy on. This plastic gold fascia comes with it. The easiest way to do that is to get a very thin electronic screwdriver. This is the easiest I found. Doesn't mean it's the easiest for you. And push the finger in and use the electronic screwdriver to guide it up. That one actually was a lot easier than I thought it would be. So that's one. These things are normally kind of difficult because where they're located. this one's being difficult. So push the finger down, use the screwdriver to hold it down, and then carefully pry or lift the top so the finger comes out of its square and disconnects. And there's 4 of them, so you got to keep going around. Now I know I could just rotate the carousel since it's disconnected inside somehow, but when you reassemble it, you can't rotate the carousel, especially if all the gears and belts are intact. So it's good practice just to rotate the entire base and not just the carousel part. This one is not moving, so I'm gonna try and push it with another screwdriver. There we go. Last one. Come on. Set her down a little. The tension. The last one is either easy or hard because you change the tension on the entire thing by loosening up the previous 3. And this one is being more difficult. And it keeps slipping. There we go. It should technically just pop off now. Plastic finger reclipped, and so did this one. There you go. Alright. And voila. So, if you haven't seen it in the previous videos, these are your fingers. They clip into these big 4 squares, and what happens is when you push one up, the other one latches. So you gotta go back and forth. So I'll set that out of the way. Here's your rotor assembly, your incoming power wires, your inner track is hot, your outer track is not. To remove this barrel assembly, you have to remove this nut, and you have to desolder these wires. And then you have to feed them into the center section so you can slide the nut up. So we're going to take the rotor assembly apart. So first thing, let's fire up that soldering iron. So we desolder the wires. While it's heating up, I'm going to scrape away the locking glue that's on this nut. There we go. Yeah, now I can turn the nut. There we go. So I can't take this off because wires. So that's why you have to use solder. Soldering iron. So those who aren't aware, it's easier to remove solder with new solder. The new solder allows heat transfer better into the solder joint, and it also can impregnate the joint to allow it to be softer, especially if they use lead-free solder, which I doubt this used lead-free solder. So let's put a little fresh solder on here. Sometimes you can get away with flux only to do a heat transfer, but the best option is to always just use new solder. There we go. This thing has got a big old solder glob on it. There we go. Let's get that solder glob off. Alright, so got the 2 wires desoldered. You gotta push the wires inside the center, like so, because you can't get the nut over them very easy. There we go. Put the nut over there. Pull up your rotor assembly. Don't lose the 2 springs. 1 and 2. Now this whole drum will lift up and over. Like so. Like I said, most Mr. Christmas are all the same. And all these studs, they're really high, because if you look at other Mr. Christmas carousels, they're not. And that's for those flags that I didn't see in the box. So here's the mechanism. This one has a fat lip to hold the carousel. Some of them have a washer that it sits on. Here's your wire to your outer ring lights, so we don't have to work on this ring at all. If you do, those are those 6 screws on the bottom. Here's your motor, here's your gear pack. Let's plug it in, and I want to see if the pulley's turning, because I see the belt's intact. I want to see if the gears are turning. Never mind, I already see the problem. Alright, the gear is dropped, probably because it's cracked. So, the motor is probably turning just fine, and it's got a broke. Yeah, the gear's broke. The gear split. I can see it. You can make up your own songs if you want. You know, I can see clearly now the hub is gone. I can see all the cracks that are in my way. So, anyway, let's see what we can do about fixing this. The gear that's in here is you can get from Happy Holidays parts. He does carry them. I'm going to check to see if my gear kits, if I have any left. The last carousel I fixed, I think was my last gear, because this gear breaks it's very common to break. And I think I'm out. I think I used my last one literally an hour ago, because I do a couple of back to back. One my schedule permits. If not, I try to work on at least part of one every day, or close to every day depending on schedule. So here we go. Now the motor wire is short and this wire is long. This wire here is the one that goes up the center. To make your motor wire slightly more accessible, you can actually break it free from the hot glue, which is right here, and push it through. That'll give you an extra couple of inches of play. I don't know what kind of glue this is. Man, this glue is hard. I don't know if this is hot glue. I think this might be a resin glue. It's not super or Gorilla or anything like that. This is a... Yeah, this is a very... sticking to the vinyl insulation on the wires, but it's not really sticking to the plastic of the unit. Yeah, it's coming right off the plastic. So instead of peeling the wires out, I'm just going to peel it off the plastic like that. Unless this is just really tacky hot glue from, 20 years ago when this was made. What that does is you now pull that slack through, and it gives me a little bit more room. And if you can see, that pulley in the belt are not anywhere close to alignment. That's because that 14-tooth gear is broke, and that's why I can move this up and down. The last one I did, if you watched it, not only did I replace the gear, but I put a bushing so the gear can't drop. So that way if it breaks or fails, or just spins because the single piece of material they use to hold it in place fails, the gear can't drop out of place, causing it to lose its alignment. So to do this, you need to remove the 2 screws that have this crossbar that has the center bushing for the pulley. Also, this belt is probably the original. It looks dry. So we're going to check that and see if it's got any pliability. It might have to be replaced. I'm going to pull out the nylon bushing that goes in here, put it back in its hole, and then this just comes right off. Oh yeah, this belt it's got pliability, but when I stretch it, I can see the cracks. So this belt will be going in the garbage. And I'm going to leave this on here and see if you can see this. So, because this crack is huge. I don't know if it's going to focus. There you go. See that big old crack? So there it is. This is a 3mm shaft. A lot of the replacement gears that do not come from Happy Holiday Parts or the Mr. Christmas guy, as I hear a lot of people call him, he sells the original 3mm hole size. A lot of the aftermarket kits that come in baggies like this, they're 1, 2, 2, sometimes 2.5mm holes. That's a 3. So you have to drill them out if you have the 3mm drill bits, the micro bits. If you don't trust yourself doing that, order the correct gear from Happy Holidays Parts. He'll ship it to you. It might take a week or so to get it. Leave your carousel somewhere like this so you know where it's at and how to put it back together, and you're good to go. So I'm going to try and locate a gear, and if I have one, we're going to reassemble it, test it, and then this one technically should be good too. Be back in a few. Alright, I went through, I had one gear left. So here's the broken gear, which we're going to throw away. The new gear is on, and I put it all back together as far as the pulley goes. So there we go. The other gears look good. Now, here's the old belt. I did replace the belt because that's crap. So I'll throw that away. This wire is the lights that go up top. If it gets pulled out or you can't push it in, I'm going to show you how to do it. Get a piece of scrap wire and feed it through. This is a piece of scrap wire I fed through. I've talked about it before, but this one wouldn't go back up because that ground wire kept getting caught. So instead of trying to fight with it, let me show you how to work on this. So get a piece of wire long enough to feed through. I'm going to fold the end over just to prevent me from pulling it all the way in. And what you want to do is turn the power off and unplug it, because we're now creating a short. We're going to squeeze these guys together. And we're going to solder these wires to this scrap wire I have and act it as a fish. We're going to fish it through. You can also do it with a piece of fishing string, nylon monofilament line, or a very thin piece of wire. You don't have to solder. Solder lets it anchor, meaning that if you ever fish wires or anything through, you usually use tape, and you tape the wires to the fish tape. The solder is my tape. It's going to hold my wires together. Just got to get these wires to stay in the same spot so I can try and solder them on. Like that. And the wires are used to being in two different directions, so as soon as they untwist, they go their separate ways. There we go. And now, you got to make sure your solder ball isn't too big to fit through the hole in the bottom. There we go. And then, just like that. And now we're going to line up the standoffs. And then we're going to desolder my wires. Pink. Just like that. Now, these are supposed to come out the side, but you can fish these down and poke something through to pull them through, and which we'll do in a moment. First thing we're going to do though, turn off my soldering iron so it's not just sitting there burning itself up. We're going to put these 6 screws back in, or 5 screws, sorry, and screw this base back down before we get too ahead of ourselves. While you have it open, check your lubrication. The grease on this track and the grease on the gears is adequate. There's no grease near the motor other than what's on the track next to the motor, because we don't want any grease near the motor. Grease and motors don't mix. Of course, while it's out, check your gearbox. When I was looking for a gear and I started putting it back together, I spun the gearbox to check the gears, because the bigger gears may not break, but this guy, the transfer gear, could. I haven't seen one yet break. The only gear I've ever seen break on this is that 14 tooth, but it's going to happen eventually to somebody, so inspect your gears. And if you do have any carousel, generally the carousels, the screws are not equidistant. As you can tell, the 5 screws make an arc. That's because there's nothing really in this area that needs to be screwed down. All your torque is right in here. Your motor, your pulley drive, and your transfer, your gear transfer system. So it's all together. And now we're going to set this in. Remember me telling you about that washer? It was stuck up inside. There's the washer. Nothing else in there. Good to go. Alright. That's why it wouldn't go in. And then set her down to where she drops in on the gear. Once you're on the gear, it can't turn anymore, as you can see. I'm going to use small blade electronic screwdriver. I'm going to push the wires down, and then I'm going to try and push the wires through. I got a little eye loop, and now I'm going to pull the black wires out. And now I'm going to try and do the same for the red. Push it down, got a little eye loop, and bam, just like so. I probably should have put that rotor assembly together prior to doing that. Oh well. Because I'm going to have to push these in a little to get this rotor assembly back on. And the nut. Yeah, I use a little X-Acto knife box to hold everything. It's perfect. So, the springs go on the bottom of the pins. You got springs that push up and springs that push down. There's springs on both sides. So there we go. Now the rotor arm does not turn. It's got a key that prevents it from turning on the shaft. So make sure it's lined up so you get some exposed threads. And let's see if I can feed this, or do I have to move the wires? Nope, I can feed it. Sometimes you cannot feed the nut over the wires, and you have to push the wires back inside. This nut is a single thread nut. The easiest way to do it, to screw it on without cross threading it, is to turn it backwards till it goes click and drops down, then tighten it. Now, what you can do is lift the arms, these, and wiggle this and push it down further to ensure that you have a proper seat, and then tighten the nut. Now I just tighten it generally finger tight by pushing down and making sure that the nut's flush. I use hot glue to stop the nut from backing off. And remember, inner's hot, outer's not. Easiest way to remember this. Get a little solder on the wires. I'm going to tin them. Once it's up to temperature, sometime today would be great. There we go. I turned on my hot glue gun. So that way, once I get these soldered, hopefully I have enough heat in the glue gun to put a small dab of glue on the nut. And all that does is prevent it from backing off because it rotates. It could unscrew. So here's the inner. So again, easiest way to remember, inner ring hot, outer ring not. You know, or you can take a picture. There we go. Ah, not hot enough. Make sure the lights work. The rotor does is all it does is make the ring of lights right here where these bare wires are, make the lights underneath turn on. Yep. Good to go. So now we just need to wait for my glue gun to get warm. And then put the top back on. You would think this is a 14-volt glue gun with a 20-volt battery that it would get hotter faster. I think it gets hotter slower. 6 volts more power. But, and there's no computer, there we go. There's no computer chip to tell it, you know, it's just a direct heat. So I just put usually a 50% arc of hot glue on the nut only. Pull the strings. And what that does, it prevents the nut from backing off. So that's simple. Last step basically is to line up your 4 fingers in the center hole and pop this cap on. Of course, this one might be slightly more difficult because all these grommeted holes have to line up too. So yeah, this one might be a hair more difficult than standard, or it might be easier since it has more alignment pins. I don't know. That's one on. It did not break. A lot of people think when they go clack really hard that the fingers snap off. It did not snap. There we go. These fingers are really stiff. They don't want to self-center. So I'm just using the little screwdriver to pop them in. Huh, the last one went in. That was easy. Alright, this guy didn't self-center apparently. Something is not aligned. It's lined up. There we go. It's caught on the sign. The sign's warped a little and it's catching. So all the roof is clipped in. We're good to go. Here we put my big screwdriver. Now sometimes this metal shaft doesn't line up. Also probably helps if you have the correct screw in here. So now the metal shaft lined up perfectly. Last one I did, it didn't. So don't have to torque that down in any fashion. I'm going to put a little dab of glue on this. I usually put a small bead on opposite ends. I'll let it cool for a second, so it's a cold glue. Basically what it acts as is a wedge. And then push it in, and now we're good to go. So, I'm pretty positive it's going to work. I'm going to go turn off some lights, and we're going to look at this thing in the dark. There we go. Actually really cool that it has the option of this. So, and then there's on all the time. And then here is all the lights flash together in sequence with the music. So it's 3 settings. All the lights at once, top and bottom lights separately, and then just on. I actually like the flashing lights. It's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's cool. That's the first time I've seen it, and that's beautiful. So, this concludes the 75th anniversary Mr. Christmas carousel with just a broken gear and a dried out belt. So, oh, let's make sure the song rotation works. It does. So, fully functional. Look at that. Beautiful carousel. It'd be really cool if it had the flags. I didn't see them in the box because it's just got 2 big cardboard things, but doesn't mean they're not with the original owner. So, it's good to go back to its owner. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.